There are a few notable instances of players playing when they are clearly injured and having an incredible performance. Matt Stafford playing against the Cleveland Browns with a shoulder injury and winning the game despite being visibly in pain. Brett Favre somehow throwing a touchdown pass while playing with a concussion, which I made a video about a few months ago. Check that out in the upper right corner. Greg Jennings scoring an improbable touchdown on a broken leg. But with so many games and performances in NFL history, a few are bound to slip through the cracks. And seeing as we all just had the joy of watching the Jets and Broncos play each other on national television, it seems fitting to talk about a Jets-Broncos game of the past, and one of the most remarkable injured performances of all time that nobody seems to talk about. Because in 1994, Rob Moore had arguably the best game of his career while playing with a broken wrist and another possible injury. And this is the story behind that. First, we need a bit of context entering this game. And before we talk about this game against the Broncos, we need to go back a month to talk about when the Jets played the Eagles in the preseason. There's no footage of this game or this play, so just enjoy some Rob Moore highlights while I explain what happened. Remember that Moore was chosen by the Jets with a first-round pick in the 1990 supplemental draft. Now, while he was a solid receiver in his first 4 years, he wasn't the big play guy. Even though he was second on the Jets in receptions in 1993 with 64, and even though he led the team with 843 receiving yards, he only had one touchdown. But he had an opportunity in 1994, since he was going to be the guy under new head coach Pete Carroll. Chris Burkett, who led all receivers with 4 touchdowns, was no longer there. The only notable reinforcement they brought in during the offseason was a 37-year-old Art Monk, who was on the decline. Moore was set for a big year, but he suffered an injury when diving for a pass in the end zone. And then he made the injury worse when diving for another pass later in the game, not realizing that the wrist was already broken. After the game, it was revealed that his left wrist was broken, and the timetable for how long he'd be out was looking like 8 weeks, which, considering where we were at this point in the preseason, was looking like at minimum the first quarter of the regular season. Moore defied the odds though. He came back, and he did relatively well in week 1 against the Bills, catching 5 passes for 83 yards. But it was the next game against the Broncos that shocked everyone. On September 11th, 1994, Moore was still playing with a broken wrist and a cast. Midway through the fourth quarter, the Jets were trailing, though Moore was having a pretty good game, as he had 6 receptions for 92 yards. But then Moore got injured again. On this play right here, Boomer Esiason found tight end Johnny Mitchell over the middle on 3rd down for a gain of 15 and a first down. Away from the play though, Broncos safety Steve Atwater delivered a cheap shot that amazingly enough was not penalized. I don't know what the refs were looking at, or in this case not looking at, because this was definitely illegal. Moore went to the sideline immediately after and took his helmet off, visibly shaken up. At this point, Moore's got a broken wrist and possibly more after that hit. But he came back into the game. Afterwards, he said that he was more ticked off than anything, and that the hit actually fired him up a little bit. How did he respond when he returned? Well, he caught a 3rd down pass that set up a 4th and short, which the Jets later converted. He caught the go-ahead 35-yard touchdown a few plays later. And then he completed the octopus when he scored the 2-point conversion. Eventually, the Jets won the game 25-22 in overtime, and Moore finished the game with 9 receptions for 147 yards and a touchdown. To put into perspective just how well Moore played even after having a broken wrist and suffering a cheap shot, the 9 receptions he had tied a career high. And over the course of his 10-year career, he would never have a game with double-digit receptions, so this would remain a career high. His 147 receiving yards was the 2nd most he's ever had with the Jets, and the most he ever had at home at Giants Stadium. He would finish his career with over 9,300 receiving yards, and even led the NFL in that category in 1997. And yet this still remained a top 5 game in his receiving yardage category. It was the most receiving yards he's had in a game that season, and was the first time and one of just 4 times in his career where he caught a touchdown and a 2-point conversion in the same game. Considering the circumstances, this may have been the best game of his career. As one Associated Press writer said, maybe Rob Moore should always wear a cast and get his bell rung. It's incredible that Moore had a very good decade-long career where he made multiple Pro Bowls and was arguably a top 5 receiver in the mid-1990s. And yet, his best game came when he was severely injured and had almost nothing in the tank. Be sure to check out Twitch every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern for your chance to play NFL trivia and win cash prizes. Link in the description below. Also, special thanks to all of our Patreon supporters for helping out the channel. Your support is greatly appreciated. So you can become a patron and request future video topics in the description below.